OMG, here we are at episode 12.
That's so good.
Yes.
But before we dive in, we want to give you a little message from our fearless leader, Olivia.
That's me. It's a super rough day, and we recognize that, and it's a particularly hard day for survivors. So if your version of self-care is to sit here with us and chat about oral sex and listen to us chat about oral sex for a while, awesome. If your version of self-care is something else, great. We understand and support you. Part of the way that Speak About It is trying to unfuck this system is to do pleasure-based sex education, which is what this is all about. So we see you, we hear you, we support you. We're going to talk about oral sex now.
Thank you. But before we dive in,
Almost. Not gonna point for that one.
Before we dive in, I want to acknowledge that it is episode 12, and we do these episodes once a month. Hi, Shane. You can answer this math question. So if we've done 12 episodes, today is kind of a special day.
Ooh, because why? No, I know. Because it's our birthday. Happy birthday to us.
Yay.
So instead of talking about oral sex, we're just going to talk about cake. Any cake?
It would be crummy not to.
Gross.
Okay, we are going to talk about oral sex and eat the cake at the same time.
Yeah, quite literally talking about eating the cake while we're eating the cake.
Feel great about that.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. I just gave you my fork.
There you go.
Friends don't we need friends?
Oh, thank you for the happy birthday wishes, Shane.
Well, so great. So my first question is the question I ask every single time, which is, why are we actually having this conversation?
Ooh, great. Where do I start? Push-up classes. I just think there's like a lot of pressure and stigma and hype and gendered associations and disinformation about head out there in the world. So
I just want to a couple of disclaimers. One, we're actively talking about oral sex, and so this might be not safe for work if you work anywhere that does not speak about it. So just be aware of that. Also keep in mind that we are consent educators, if that's where our expertise lies. And so we're going. Thank you so much. A, B. Yeah, that's where our expertise lies. And so we're going to be talking a lot about not really the how-tos of oral sex, so much as how people talk about oral sex. If that makes sense.
Yeah. And so when I was a teenager, I felt like this kind of conversation about oral sex was super taboo. And so my question is, why is oral sex so taboo?
I mean, if we roll the clock all the way back to the start of Western culture.
Oh boy,
and
what a good time. Fun time for all of us.
We're all excited to be there. It is historically pretty taboo because if sex is only for procreation, right, then any part of sexuality that is for pleasure, because recognizing that it is incredibly unlikely to make a baby through oral sex in a variety of forms. Then it is pretty taboo. It's something that wasn't talked about, and still to this day there are folks for whom sex is only for procreation, but that doesn't mean pleasure isn't a part of it.
True. I would also say that there's, I think that oral sex, for a lot of queer folk, oral sex is sex, right? And honestly, for a lot of non-queer folk, oral sex is sex. When you're looking at things like cunnilingus and fellatio and any form that oral sex can take, it breaks that mold of the very heteronormative, very traditional sense that sex P and V, and becomes something other. And we, again, traditionally don't really do well with othering conversations, right? And especially if you look at societally, who tends to have the most power is cis straight men. And so it makes sense, right? That we are really comfortable and really familiar with narratives that give cis straight men pleasure, and less familiar with narratives that give anyone else pleasure.
I think that even goes to how we view genitals and what is viewed as beautiful, not just what bodies, but genitals, right? If there's hair, there's all of this fear around hair and smells and secretion, all these different things, which when are literally in one's face when one is performing oral sex, can be really challenging if you're taught that that is not a beautiful part of a body or the body. Can I share a quick cunnilingus story?
Literally always.
I was working in a sex education classroom in Philadelphia, and I had a female body queer identified high school student, and my rule is that I use medically accurate terminology. They don't have to. But she really liked the word cunnilingus, and she wanted to learn how to say it, I think because it was often the type of sex that she was having. And she never quite got there. She got to congolingus, which I love. that feels right. There should be like a rhythm. Maybe there's a little skill. Like maybe it takes some practice. Maybe and it's like pleasurable and something you should enjoy doing.
Mm-hmm.
I never corrected her. That felt right.
Honestly, like, it makes sense.
It's like a really hard word to say.
Well, yeah, and it's like a hard term for us, or a hard concept for us, right? Because like we don't really talk a lot about like female pleasure. Like, we live in a society that like overlooks and undervalues female pleasure and female sexuality. And so in these conversations, like again, going back to what I was just saying, traditionally it's name of your band. Traditionally it's
we would be horrible.
And so traditionally it's narratives of sex that involve like cis straight men that we really center, which is bonkers, right? Because like going from there, that heteronormative view of sex being like penis and vagina, we know that like statistically speaking, like roughly like 3/4, so it's like 75% of women aren't going to orgasm from just penetrative sex alone. What?
It's like, why haven't we been talking about cuddling since the beginning of time?
Exactly. Yeah. It's like I challenge everyone to think of media, right? Try to find an example in the media that there was just an example of a woman receiving pleasure, and like there's no like reciprocity involved. It's just like her receiving pleasure, and that was the scene. It doesn't happen super often. When it does, it causes a huge splash, and people talk about it and are scandalized. But like it's
a huge splash.
Oh yeah.
Name of your
Huge splash.
Making waves.
Yeah, and
Surf rock.
and you do see like some of this conversation becoming more common, but it's still like on the fringes of society.
Yeah.
It's in like specifically queer and feminist blogs. There's nowhere really that's like in the media or in the sphere that like cis straight men are consuming it.
Yeah.
And if it is, it's oftentimes given as this thing that's like this like extra special thing that makes this dude like a kinky sex god because he pleasured his partner, which like should really be like a baseline.
But it's still like if you do a quick Google, it's like the first 4 pages after you Google oral sex are like, give her an orgasm! ! You're a rock star.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's still this thing that like you deserve a medal for thinking that your partner deserves some pleasure, which is like it's good, but like you don't deserve a medal. Like everyone should care about their partner enjoying themselves.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of like gendered stuff going on here, and so I'm wondering if we can like look at some of those gendered pressures and assumptions that are associated with oral sex. What are other ones that you see?
I mean, I see a lot of like a lack of a reciprocity, particularly in hetero oral sex, and I'm acknowledging that this is super hetero, but like we go to high schools and we talk to high school students, and they are all saying that like blowjobs or like fellatio is a thing that's pretty normal and part of the sexual interaction. If you look at like the spectrum of like normative sexy encounters to like sex that makes you a slut, blowjobs increasingly are sort of on this side of it, and like, but that's not the same for cunnilingus, right? Like par for the course when girls and boys and high schoolers are hooking up, but only one way. And I think that that's also super age driven. We see that like folks over 50, only a small percent of women over 50 have performed fellatio, but it's 3/4 of women under 35, like pretty common, particularly for this age group and this time. And it's considered not a big deal, which is super interesting because going down on a woman or someone with a vulva is a big deal. And when we say reciprocity, I don't mean like 1-for-1, tit for tat.
1 minute of fellatio for 1 minute of
Children?
It's like speed chess. You just like hit the buzzer and like ding.
Yeah.
But like you should be focused on other folks' pleasure. What?
No, I thought there was a new comment, but it was just shaking. Congolingus. I was gonna say. Oh yeah, and I think that also like it's if you enjoy giving head, like or like, giving any type of oral pleasure, like cool, that's great. Just as a side note, we're using giving head for any gender, right? Like we're really saying like eating out when we're talking about like a vulva, and we're saying blowjob tradition, we're talking about like a phallus of some sort. But I think we're all using head as being like pretty gender
neutral.
But yeah, if you happen to like really enjoy giving blowjobs, like that's also fine, right? Like that can be like really empowering and really sexy in and of itself. But I think that what we're saying is that there are also ways that can feel really bad. Like the power dynamics associated sometimes with oral sex can be stressful, and specifically associated with blowjobs can be really stressful. And so we're just asking you to like be mindful of the fact that like the power dynamic might be something to think about.
Yeah, I think those power dynamics are things that are really at play. I even see it in my own life where like for a long time I was like blowjobs are only for me for boyfriends. Hi, Anne, because like I felt like based on my prior sexual experiences, I couldn't like trust somebody to like build that kind of relationship where like the power dynamic didn't feel really off, or I didn't feel like I was being made to do something I didn't want to do, and that was like a turn on. And even like people like pushing your head or your shoulder, like I think it's a really common experience for women or anybody who gives blowjobs, and like the intentions there might be really different, like they still kind of build that uncomfortable experience, and that feels really awkward and scary. And so I think we really do have to think about how to build relationships where like blowjobs can exist and they do feel sexy and empowering. Those power dynamics are really even.
I think that's really a really fascinating point, because like things that look alike are not necessarily the same,
right?
But they can still have the same impact.
Feel the same.
Yeah. And so I think that's really huge. And so like we're like definitely like pro blowjob, pro oral sex. But what we're saying is like when you're confronted with like a genital in your face and like everyone's singular genital, that might be a hard time to like have a conversation like with yourself and with your partner to like, navigate like power dynamics and the comfort level. And so what we're saying is that like it might be helpful to like before your pants are off, before genitals are out and flopping around, like just like have a conversation with your partner about like what feels right about power dynamics. It's the technical term.
Before you flop, don't let your pants drop.
Speaking of flopping, there's some research out for folks with vulvas that says that like often receiving sex or like receiving oral sex or oral pleasure is super uncomfortable because it feels passive, and especially folks with vulvas don't love these folks with vulvas tend to not love feeling passive in situations. So like also not just a question for you and your partner or partners, like or a conversation, but also like with yourself. What sorts of sex do you like that involve oral sex? What don't you like? Why? Like what might make them more fun or less fun for you? We're not saying you have to do all of them, but like if feeling passive doesn't feel great, is there a way to receive oral sex and feel active in it? I don't know. That's sort of a question for you to answer.
Yeah. What does Shane have to say?
I literally don't know how to use computers. Okay, you guys, you can keep talking.
Okay, Oronde's going to respond to your question. But Olivia, your point about vulvas and people who like sort of don't feel super great about receiving oral sex, maybe think about what other types of folks are left out of this conversation.
Before we jump in, just to like make sure we acknowledge his point, Shane is pointing out that our lovely friend Tina Horn has a podcast called Why Are People Into That? And there's a really great episode about blowjobs, and a lot of the folks they talked to in that episode were saying they feel really empowered because like, they feel like they're in control and they can do things. And so, which I think a lot of people do have that feeling. And so looking at ways to like reframe like your thoughts and interactions with a specific act can be really powerful and really empowering.
I love that.
Thank you, Shane.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Olivia.
Oh, voices that are left out of the conversation.
So people who are left out of the conversation.
Yeah, I think queer voices, Oronde already talked about how most of our media is super heteronormative. Like, we don't see or read a lot of queer voices. There are a lot of amazing queer, in particular, ladies or folks with vulvas who've been doing a lot of writing about this, about like head in general, and potentially are going to give more tips and tricks than we are going to on this Facebook Live event, which is like really cool to see. And we could seek out some more of those conversations about like feminine and female pleasure that really aren't in the mainstream.
I would also say that like dudes that sleep with dudes or like sex play with dudes are like surprisingly left out. Which is fascinating. Because it's funny, like we were saying that like a lot of really helpful like, and like healthy sex conversations are happening between women that sleep with women. But I think there's like a really this like really interesting like stereotype that like we said like with high schoolers, like head's no big deal. Like you can just go down on them because you can like kind of do it anywhere and it's like no big deal. That like might be problematic in a number of ways. Additionally, I think going a step further, like there's this thing that like ties into roles, right? That the person that bottoms, like that typically receives, is oftentimes looked at the one in like the more like feminine or the more female role, which is like pretty problematic and like pretty misogynistic in a number of ways. But also means that they're expected to like be the ones that give pleasure. And so it's like the top is just there to receive pleasure in all those different forms, and the bottom is just there to like be this like sexual receptacle.
Name of your memoir.
Oh, too real.
Sorry. Not too real.
Attacked, exposed.
Sorry.
But yeah, so I think like that's a really interesting thing that like needs to be looked at a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think we're also missing like trans voices in this conversation.
Absolutely.
Like folks, and I think something in particular that's important for that is the language we use about our genitals and our partners' genitals, or partners' plural genitals. It's like not everybody likes the same terminology. Like I said, I default to medically accurate terminology. For some people, that doesn't work at all, right? Like what I think of as what I have often thought of as ghost neutral is really not. And so like not just the terminology for what you want your genitalia to be called, but like the verbs that you want folks to do that don't work necessarily in the same way for everybody. And it's like really important to think about the humanizing conversation around like what do you want done and what do you want to call it?
Yeah.
Which is like, and like I always think about media, right? It's like when was the last time that you saw any representation in mainstream media of like a trans character having someone like knowingly, enthusiastically going down on them?
No.
I like literally cannot.
Trying to be like, okay.
Actually, I thought of them, and they're always fear mongering. They're always the moment of like, whoa.
Well, that's why I said knowingly and enthusiastic. Yeah, it's like it's always like this big surprise, like you're a dude, but it's like yeah, and so like we really don't have that narrative at all. I do really quickly want to say that like we also leaving out folks that like experience like pain or like have some sort of like trauma with sex. Like folks with like different like physical abilities, right? Like usually left out of this type of conversation. Asexual folk like still might actually participate in sexual acts, and like and so like that is none of that is really frequently talked about. Even though we're sex educators, like we do not have expertise in those realms, and so like, we're not really going in depth with that. But I didn't want to leave them out entirely from the conversation.
Yeah, that's really important.
But I would also like to say that like we sex educators are frequently left out of this conversation. But like this is part of why we talk about pleasure-based sex ed. It's like if you were checking with your partner, if you're concerned with like what feels good to them and that they're enjoying the experience, the likelihood of you like hurting or harming them goes way down because you care about how they feel from this experience. And so sex educators can actually be a really, really powerful and helpful tool in making our sex lives like healthier and happier.
I agree. So we are consent educators, and so I have to ask the question of how do we teach people or how do we navigate consent when it comes to oral sex, given all of this stuff that we just talked about?
Right. I mean, I think one of the things that we talk about when we talk about consent is like centering your partner's pleasure in their body in that moment. So like you may have had a previous partner or partners who love receiving oral sex. Fantastic. I hope you were good at it. Congratulations. You sounded way shadier than I meant it to you. You may, and like your current partner or partners may not be into that. And like it might be a thing you think you're really good at and are really excited to bring to the table in this new way. And like they don't have that. So like just checking in about what folks actually like, centering their pleasure in their body in that moment. They may have wanted oral sex 2 days ago. You may have wanted oral sex 2 days ago and not be into it today for whatever reason. And like I think when we talk about navigating consent, something we often miss is like what's happening not just with the people who are involved, but like here right now in this encounter.
Yeah, I would also say that like that's all very important, and I think it's also sometimes I think things are so shitty. But it's also really important to point out that like if you don't enjoy it, like that's also fine, right? And like no one, I mean, like gender, sexuality should ever feel like obliged to give someone oral sex in any form. But I'm like a parody of myself and always say the same thing. I really encourage you to think critically about like why is that, right? Like maybe you had like a bad past experience, like maybe some of these social stigmas are getting in your head. Maybe like you need like other stimulation, other parts of your body. So like really there's some exploration that you should do like personally with yourself and maybe like with a partner or like even maybe like a counselor, therapist, something like that, to really talk and like unpack the issues of like what's really going on for you. Because like maybe you actually just don't like this thing, but maybe under the right circumstances, like with the right partner, with the right like setting, with the right like toys, play, whatever, it might actually be like really great. So,
I'm sorry to always be like the research human, but there's a lot of research that shows that particularly for folks with vulvas, how you feel about your genitalia particularly impacts how you feel about oral sex. So like just adding that to this conversation.
And so I want to end on a positive note with a good takeaway. And I feel like we've talked about how like oral sex can be awkward and like some people don't like it and what can we do? And so I want to end with giving our viewers a little nugget of truth or information that they can take with them so that the conversation of oral sex doesn't feel awkward and the oral sex itself doesn't feel awkward and they can navigate the situation so that it's exciting and fun and what they actually want, whether it's oral sex or not.
May I start this one? So it's really piggyback off of what you just said. So I think that like one really big thing is like loving yourself, right? And like figuring out how to at the very least become comfortable with yourself. Because I think that like you said, like for a lot of people, like a lot of folks that don't enjoy oral sex, there's like some sort of thing going on, right? They like don't enjoy their body, they're like skeptical about their genitals, like there's like some more like uncomfortable with their genitals. There's a lot of pieces with it. Or maybe even their sexuality at large I'm comfortable with. And so I think that like taking some time to figure out a way to like accept pieces of yourself can really, really like that. It might feel like it's not related to the bedroom, but it can really affect your time in the bedroom. So finding ways to just like love and accept yourself will actually, I think, sometimes make sex and oral sex better.
And to jump in on that, I think like if you love yourself and are figuring out and learning kind of what your body wants, like you may figure out that you don't like oral sex, but you might also figure out something that you like in place of or in addition to that can be something that you can engage with a partner or yourself with. And so I think there's value in that self-love there.
For sure.
What are your thoughts?
I would be remiss if I didn't talk about like, so I have a couple of thoughts about this. I think my biggest takeaway is like oral sex fits in your sex life if and as you decide it does. For some people, it's like an amuse-bouche. For some people, it's like part of the longer like interaction. For some people, it's the end-all, be-all, right? Like it's the whole shebang. But for some people, it's not on the menu. So like, and that's fine. You get to. There's no right order. You get to decide where in the order, if at all, it fits for you and your partner or partners. You also get to decide where in that order, if at all, barrier methods of contraception, like a condom or a dental dam fit, right? Like, so just gotta throw in the like that part of the brain. But like, I just want to talk about like, you have a right to your own pleasure. Your partner has a right to their pleasure. Everything feels different to everybody. We want to focus on the pleasure, and like nobody can tell you what's right or where oral sex fits in an interaction if it does.
I feel really good about that. I feel like I now have two beautiful nuggets of truth that I can take home.
We are
Or
beautiful.
other places. Thank
Yeah.
you, my beautiful nuggets of truth. Folks, this has been great. We've run pretty long, so we're gonna close up. Thank you for joining us for our birthday episode of Head.
Yes, and
I say something playing with my hair, playing with my head.
I want to end with take care of yourselves. Like today in particular, it's been sort of a rough it's been a rough week.
Yeah.
Take care of yourselves, everyone.
Yeah.
And I'll just say, eat the cake. Gross. Cool.
Bye.
Bye.